Hello. It has been like a month since I took my Christmas, I guess it's Christmas trip. It happened to fall over the Christmas break. And essentially, for I guess it was just 1 week or like 10 days, I drove up the East Coast. But I started in the South, like Savannah, and then went all the way up to New York, and then drove all the way back. And as usual, I'm not good at vlogging anyway. We all know this, but for this trip, since I was driving so much, there was just no time. So then I just recorded the stuff that I saw every day and decided that I would just talk about that when I got back. So it will start with how the trip began, and then obviously all the way until I get back home. So anyway, I'm gonna go through every day and let you know what I did, and also share some random stuff. Day one was basically the drive from Memphis all the way to Savannah, and that's like 9 hours, I think. It was Christmas Day, so nothing's open, and even stuff like McDonald's was not open for the most part. We got lucky and found one that opened at like 1 p.m. So that's where we ate lunch, and then drove the rest of the way. And I have never been that far south, like on the East Coast, so all of this was like a new drive for me. And so when we got to Savannah, it was dark when we got there, so it was kind of late. But I had pre-planned the dinner because I knew like on Christmas Day, a lot of places are closed, obviously. So there's a place called Trailer Park in Savannah, and I knew that they would be open. So we went there, and it was really cool. They have like a really weird menu that has unique stuff on it. So I got like some kind of s'mores dessert, and anyway, that place was really good. Savannah is really cool because it has and I guess in the next day you'll see, but it has a lot of historical stuff, and it's just really pretty, kind of what you imagine when you think of the South. But we didn't see a whole lot the first day. We just ate dinner and then went back to our hotel. I will say it seemed like kind of sketchy going outside of like the main districts within Savannah. But yeah, we saw a lot more the next day. So for day two, which was also in Savannah, we woke up early and we went to Wormslow, which is an old like plantation. Basically, if you Google Savannah, a lot of times it comes up with like all the trees with the moss on it. And Wormslow has like that really famous like driveway that has all the trees like kind of arching over it. So that was really cool to see. I didn't actually know that that was like at a plantation. And we walked around there for a while and got to see like, I wasn't really sure what was going on there. And there were lots of like fields, and it looked kind of swampy. Anyway, after Wormslow, we went back to like the historic district in Savannah, and we were just gonna walk around because there's so many like nice little squares in Savannah, including like the one where Forrest Gump went when he's like sitting on the bench telling the story. And they all have like those mossy trees and like a statue in the middle surrounded by like really pretty historic houses and buildings. So I think that's why Savannah ended up being our favorite overall, is just like the aesthetic was really nice, and it was just really pretty. Anyway, so we went and had lunch, and we were kind of like walking around, and I saw Paula Deen's, but I wanted to look at other places, but we ended up just going to Paula Deen's. And their menu is really cool because they basically have like all you can eat. You pick a main dish and then a bunch of sides, and they just keep bringing it to you. And everything on the menu is like super Southern, like stereotypical Southern things, and sweet tea and all of that. So it was really good. It's kind of expensive, but like it's worth it you can get as many refills on food as you want. So from there, we kept kind of like walking around the squares. We went to a park and found a geocache. I think I'm done on the East Coast geocaching now. I think I've got all of them. And when we were there, it was one that was in a tree, and this old couple came up to us and they were looking for it as well. And then we ended up talking about geocaches, but that was really cool. And we went to a chocolate shop, And we went shopping for some winter clothes. We needed like hats and gloves and stuff. So we went shopping for a long time, just kind of like in the main area. And then for dinner, I went to Chart House, which I had never been to. I guess it's kind of like a popular chain in that area, but I've never been to one. It's kind of expensive, but it took so long. It took almost 3 hours for us to get our food, which was crazy because we were going to go to a movie afterward and everything, and we just didn't have time. So that kind of like ruined the whole evening and any other plans because it took so long to get our food. So we kind of just went home after that, and we had planned to stay there longer the next day, but we ended up just going straight to Charleston to kind of save on time. It's only about a 2-hour drive from Savannah anyway. And I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do there. I'm still not quite sure what's going on in Charleston, but it's really pretty. So basically we couldn't get into our hotel yet, so we just we went to the wrong one in the first place anyway, so it's fine. We went and looked around, and from what I gathered, Charleston is just, it's like right there on the coast, and there's not even a beach on part of it. Like, it's just the ocean, and there's kind of like a wall. It is cool because there's a lot of historical sites where there were battles and stuff, and I didn't know any of that until I was there. And there's lots of palm trees, so it's really pretty. And the buildings are so nice. Savannah's like cool historical kind of thing, and Charleston is like, I don't know, it's really like classy looking and kind of fancy. And we went to the market there, and we ended up getting a few like souvenirs. The market was not as big as I expected, and we weren't really sure where to go, so we just ended up kind of walking around, which was fine because it made for really good pictures. And we walked along the ocean and saw like the pineapple fountain. I actually got a magnet that's a pineapple, just because there was like a fountain of that there. It was just kind of random. Charleston is so pretty, but I couldn't really like figure out what's going on. Just like walking through the area with houses, because they were all so like cool and unique and like really vibrant colors, which you don't really see where I'm from. So and then that evening we ended up going to, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the restaurant. Some kind of like bar and grill kind of situation. We also went to the bridge. There's like a main bridge that connects Charleston over to the next town, and we went and looked at that in the night. And then we also watched the sunset by the other side of the ocean. So yeah, it was really pretty. I can't like grasp what's going on, but it was nice to look at and go to, and that's really the only day that we spent there. So but it was really worth it stopping there. So basically the next morning I woke up really early just so I could like go to the nearest beach. I think it's called Folly Beach. I wanted to watch the sunrise and like take my camera and take a bunch of photos. And there's also a lighthouse at Folly Beach, like at the very end of it. So basically I wanted to go there and take photos of the sunrise and be there. But the weird thing was that I was like barely getting there in time. And then once I got there, you have to like park your car here. And then all the way at the end of, I guess, the beach is like the lighthouse. But you have to, maybe I misunderstood, but I had to walk all the way like down the beach, which took at least 30 minutes of just walking through the sand. So basically I watched the sunrise as we were walking there, unfortunately, which ended up being okay because the lighthouse wouldn't have been in a good angle with the sunrise anyway. And it was really pretty. One of my favorite memories from the whole trip, or possibly ever, just because it was so cool, like being on the ocean during the sunrise. And there's like birds flying everywhere and seashells everywhere, and there's hardly anyone else down there. So that was really cool. And after that, we went back to the hotel. We got some McDonald's breakfast, of course. And then we were heading towards Myrtle Beach. Myrtle Beach was kind of a last minute decision to go to. We had planned to go up to Shenandoah National Park and drive through that, but I was kind of unsure with the winter weather, and that's kind of a lot more driving, like going up that way and then over to DC. So we decided on Myrtle Beach. I didn't really know what was there, so we just kind of winged it. It's called Broadway at the Beach. I kept trying to say Hollywood. We went and we ate there, and we kind of shopped around a little bit, but it was just a bunch of like restaurants and shops in one area. And there was like this speedboat giving people rides. It was basically like professional drivers take families in a speedboat and do donuts. We did not do that. But after that, we went back to our hotel and checked in, and we had a really cool view because we were like not on the ocean front, but like one street back, and then we were kind of like up higher, so we had a good view. And there was also like a big Ferris wheel like over here. So it was a really cool view. And then when it was about sunset time, we went and walked and did the Ferris wheel ride. I couldn't get like great photos on it just because you're in a like a little gondola thing, your little boat, and there's glass when you're going around, so I couldn't get like amazing photos or anything. But after that, we wanted to do some mini golf, but we walked to one and it wasn't open, and so then we were unsure of which ones were actually open and which weren't. There's a lot of mini golf in Myrtle Beach. I don't know like why that's their theme, but it definitely is. But we didn't get to do it. We went to a candy shop earlier at the Broadway place, so we're pretty much set for the rest of the evening. Yeah, that's all we ended up doing there. I think we were just tired, and also the golf thing didn't work out, and so we just stayed in. So the next morning, I didn't wake up quite as early, but I did kind of want to just see the sunrise from our hotel room. And then I was watching it, and it was way better than the morning before. So then I was like, okay, maybe I need to like run down there really quickly so I can get some good photos. And then I debated it for about 10 minutes as I'm missing the sunrise. I finally decided to just go down there, and I went down there. I put like my little rain jacket on, and I took some photos. But after that, we kind of just left from the hotel to go towards DC. We didn't do anything else in Myrtle Beach. It just reminded me so much of Branson, and like if you weren't doing the super touristy things, then I wasn't really sure what to do. But we had places to be, so we drove all the way to DC that day. Bunch of crazy drivers, a lot of traffic. It was stressful the entire time. But once we got there, we got checked into the hotel. Which it's hard in the big cities because you also have to pay for parking, so it's kind of a scam because you pay for the hotel and then don't realize until you get there that the parking's not a part of it. Anyway, we got checked in, and that was kind of cool though because it's such a huge hotel that there's so many, it's like in a movie, there's so many like families and people all around just chilling in the like the lobbies and the lounges. And I usually just go for the cheap hotels, so I'm just not used to that, but that was kind of cool. It was also rainy there, so we went and walked to a really fancy Mexican restaurant. I did not know that it was as fancy as it was until we got there because we were just wearing like casual clothes. And that was really cool. We ended up getting dessert and everything. And after that, it was raining, so we just went back to the hotel. But yeah, most of that day was just driving. It wasn't a whole lot of actual sightseeing. And my parents were also trying to fly in to DC that night. So there was a lot of like phone calls and drama stuff happening, trying to figure out like how to coordinate that. So the next day, we had kind of planned nothing in particular other than, okay, we wanted to do the Washington Monument, and I tried to book it the day before because you have to book it the day before at, I think it's like 10 a.m. sharp. So we were like literally 2 seconds too late clicking the buttons the day before. So we didn't get tickets to do the Washington Monument. So that was a bummer, but I did book the Library of Congress or something. So we went there, and that was really cool. I'm not into books, but I think it was really pretty, and it was a really nice building, obviously. And you could like look down to where the Congress people will sit down and read. There was only like one person in there when we went. But it was really cool. They had like a bunch of different people's collections. I think it was Thomas Jefferson's maybe that we went through and saw. But that was really cool. And I think that's the only place we ended up being able to go into because we walked down the strip. Washington, D.C. is basically one long rectangle of things to see. And we walked down it. It was really muddy from the rain. And I wanted to see one Smithsonian in particular, the one that's from the Night of the Museum movies. It was closed. I don't know if for COVID or other reasons. And then the lines were so long for the other ones. It was not going to be worth it. And so we just walked down the strip and we kind of saw all the sights, all the monuments, the statues. So that was really cool. I took a lot of pictures. We didn't go up to the White House. We could see it in the distance. And we just kind of did a lap. And from there, we went to Arlington Cemetery. I guess this was my third time being in DC, and I've never been, first of all, I've still not been into a Smithsonian museum, and I had never been to the Arlington Cemetery before. I've seen photos, but I did not understand how huge it is, and it's kind of like really hard to wrap your mind around when you're there because you see a whole field just full of, grave sites, and you're like, wow, that's a lot. And then you look to the other side and in front of you and behind you, and it's just covered, and it's kind of crazy. And they have a few, they're marked on the map, where JFK's buried and his family, so we went and saw a few of those. But it was getting dark, and it closes at 5 p.m., so we kind of had to rush. And after that, I think we ended up going back to the hotel, and we ate dinner at, I think it's called Good Stuff Eatery, which is basically just burgers and milkshakes, like Steak and Shake. But for some reason that was all that I needed that day. So yeah, I guess it was kind of disappointing that we didn't get to go in anywhere. I still have never gotten the full DC experience, but I got to see more than I had before, so that was good. So we had actually planned to leave DC, or have already been gone at this point, but we stayed another day so that I could spend at least lunch with my parents, because their flight ended up getting delayed and canceled, and then they got on the next flight that morning. So we went to Georgetown, and which is outside of DC, I guess, but it's a really European looking little, not a village, but just area. And they have a bunch of shops and restaurants, and it's really cool. There's lots of hills, and there's also a campus that looks, I don't know, it looks like a tower and really old. And there were a bunch of signs that said what movies had been filmed there, just because it's such a unique area. And then we went and got Italian for lunch. So that was really cool. And then we had to kind of leave after that, because this would have been on New Year's Eve at this point, so it's the 31st, and we need to get to New York because we have a cruise kind of planned that evening, and it's a few hours drive. So we just had lunch, and then we had to leave DC. So we drove all the way to New York, and I have never gotten to drive into New York and see it for what it is, especially at night, and go into it. And they do an underground little tunnel thing that you drive, or under the river, I guess, to get you into New York. And I was so nervous. I have never driven in New York before, and I have avoided it. I was really nervous, even though basically it worked out beautifully, because the hotel we stayed at was right across the bridge from Jersey, and then basically you circle around and it's there. So I didn't really have to go anywhere in New York, but it was still kind of terrifying, because even if you're at lights and you don't slam on the gas as soon as it turns, people are honking at you, and I can't handle it. So we got checked into our hotel, and we were getting ready for the New Year's cruise, because you have to dress all fancy and whatnot. And we were kind of running out of time, so we just went to some bar across the street and had dinner, which ended up being so cool, just being in a little tiny bar area in New York, and just seeing I don't know, just real nightlife happening in New York City. I guess I've never stayed in New York when I'd been, I kind of stayed outside of it. So that was really cool, and the food was actually good, but I didn't get to eat half of it because we were in such a hurry. And our cruise left from right behind our hotel as well, so it all worked out great. But it was freezing, and I'm over here wearing a dress because I don't know what else you're supposed to wear to like formal occasions, and we have to stand outside the boat for like 15 minutes probably waiting in line to get on, and it was such a weird thing. It was like a weird mesh of people. There were like a couple families with children, and then there were some people that looked like they were going to the club, and then some people who were just like really formally dressed like it was prom or something, and then people who just looked like they might be going out for Walmart or something. It was weird. And there were 2 different decks, and we were on like the R&B and hip hop floor, which there were great options. And it was so loud. Also, there was food there, so we kind of wasted our time getting dinner. Apparently there was a buffet. And they sat us at like a huge round table full of like strangers, basically shoulder to shoulder. And I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not about this. So we just went and like found a couch somewhere because I was just so uncomfortable. So I don't know, it was really loud music, and if you went out on the deck, you got a good view, but it was so cold that I couldn't stand out there for very long. And then once it was like midnight, there were fireworks in the distance, and we were kind of like pretty close to the Statue of Liberty, so that was cool seeing that at night. But there weren't a whole lot of fireworks, and I don't know, it was a cool experience, but I'm not sure like what I expected. I know Times Square would have been a lot crazier, but we were not going to do Times Square. It's too much like waiting for hours and not eating and stuff. So then we just walked back to the hotel, but yeah, that was our New Year in a nutshell. So this was like a full day in New York City, and we kind of just got breakfast and then we're just walking around, and we were trying to, I don't know why buying gloves was the hardest task, because I actually lost my gloves. I think I left them on the cruise. So I needed gloves, and I needed, for some reason I wanted rain boots. I don't know. We were trying to do some kind of shopping and also see the sightseeing sites all in one. And we wanted to get to the Harry Potter store, but the wait is actually, it was like 8 hours. So that didn't happen. But we stayed in that area and shopped around a bit and didn't actually find much. And then we went to the chocolate place. Stuck on me, stuck with me, stick to me. I don't know. There was basically like a chocolate truffle shop. So expensive. It was like $50 or $60 for like a box of 12 chocolates. But it's because I have a photo. I'll like import it here. But it looks so nice and like marbly and fancy. That must be why it's expensive, because the chocolate itself was not better than what you could buy at like dollar store. I don't know. Maybe I just have cheap taste. I don't know. But from there, I think we ended up going back to the hotel because we had so much planned for the evening that we needed to get ready for. We were gonna go to Gallagher's, which is the steakhouse that I went to the first time that I was in New York City, and I spent like $50 on a steak, so I did it again. It wasn't as good as I remember. Honestly, Texas Roadhouse is just as good, if not better. The service is really amazing at Gallagher's. Maybe that's why they're popular. The steak is good, but I'm happy with Texas Roadhouse. So we also were walking to Broadway. We were watching a Broadway show. We were watching Wicked, but on our walk there, we were just going down the sidewalk. Actually, we were gonna go see Times Square and then go to Wicked. And we were walking down the sidewalk with a bunch of shops next to us, and I hear this loud like crash behind me. I didn't know it was a crash. It was just a really loud noise, like something dropped something huge. And I turn around, and this car basically goes sideways up this one and then lands. And we're walking like right here on the sidewalk, and this car kind of comes towards us and like hits a light post and stops. So that was kind of crazy. And I think everyone was fine. It was just kind of, I don't know why it happened. I don't know what happened. We kind of just kept walking because everyone was fine. But yeah, I think we were a little traumatized after that. It was like kind of nerve-wracking being in such a busy place like after witnessing that. And then we saw Times Square, busy as usual, hectic with, I'm not really sure like what's actually going on there, too many things going on. And we walked over to Broadway after that, where we got in line for Wicked. We watched this one family get turned away. I guess they had tickets for Wicked, but they had a kid with them, and kids like generally haven't been vaccinated. That was another thing about New York, is that you had to show proof of vaccination everywhere you went. You had to pull out your card. I noticed that most of the places that we were asked were restaurants or places with food, not so much like shops. I don't think they did check at shops, but anywho, this whole family had to leave because one kid was not vaccinated, so that's kind of crazy. And we watched Wicked. It was really cool. It was really good. I had never seen or known anything about Wicked other than it was kind of connected to The Wizard of Oz. But that was a really good experience, really good actors. And from there we got dessert, and then we just went home. So the last day in New York, last full day I should say, we had a tour booked to go like a little ferry boat to take us to Ellis Island and the Statue of Liberty. So they basically pack tons of people onto this ferry boat, and we got like on the top deck so we could watch behind us. And I wanted a view of New York City, so that's why I got in the back. And it was crazy because there's all these like, I guess they're seagulls, I don't know. All these birds are just like gathering, they're like spawning behind the ship, like as we're just cruising along going towards the Statue of Liberty. And there's so many, and I had a video, and they're like above you and they go like right beside you. It was a little bit scary, and people are like throwing food at them, so they're kind of like swerving everywhere. It kind of felt like a movie, but was also kind of terrifying. And honestly, Statue of Liberty was what you would expect. We didn't get the tickets to like go up in it, and so we just took some photos at it and then got back on the ferry to go to the Ellis Island. And at Ellis Island we actually walked around a bit more because they have like a bunch of exhibits in there that kind of explain like why people came there, how many people came there, what happened and everything. And you could see like the rooms that they were in and stuff like that. A lot of it is actually like we couldn't get to. It's just like the main building where people came, and there's a lot of different buildings where they stay, but that was all like blocked off. So I don't know, it was still worth it. It was really cool to go see those things. I've always like seen them in the distance, but never actually like taken the ferry over there. And we went to the World Trade Center, and well, where the new one is, as well as the memorial of the first two. And it's always so crazy because the holes are so big and deep, like you can't even look down and see like the center or what's below you because it's so large. And they also like would place flowers in the names of the people around the plaques of whose birthday it is. We didn't go into the new World Trade Center, even though they do have, I think they do have an observation deck in there, but I did my research before we went to New York, and I concluded that Top of the Rock was the best, with like the best views. So we didn't go up there, even though I think that would be really cool. We went and had lunch at a sports bar and had some pretty lackluster service, and we just got like normal bar food, wings and stuff. From there, I'm pretty sure we just went back to the hotel, and then we went to Central Park because I wanted to ride bikes, but that didn't happen, and it also got dark, so we just ended up walking through Central Park in the dark, and there were rats running around like they own the streets. I guess they do, but There was also like a helicopter going around as if like someone was on the loose in Central Park, and I have watched enough Law and Order to know that there probably was. And there was something was going down. We were by like the ice rink, and I was gonna go ice skating, but something sketchy was happening over there, so we didn't do that either. And they were also booked up for like days, I think, at that ice rink in Central Park. So from there we got some like vendor food, some like street food, like a pretzel. It was not impressive, very disappointed. Also, I got a hot dog on the ferry, and also disappointing, there was no ketchup or mustard. Who wants a dry dog? Anyway, we went and got Indian food for dinner. After that, we got some curry, and then we got dessert, and we went back to the hotel. And at our hotel, they have like 2 rooftop bars. One of them's like closed because it's cold outside, and then the one that's indoor still has like a deck. So we just went up there to go literally look at the view from the deck up there, because we had not been up there. That's where we wanted to spend New Year, and then they told us that if we didn't have like a party of 6, then they wouldn't like book for New Year's. Anyway, so yeah, we just went and saw the view on the deck, and that was all of that day. So when I went to London, I think it was my first morning there, I had, I don't say it right, an acai, I don't know, an acai bowl. And I love it because I love cinnamon and spices, and that's what it tastes like to me. It's just like fruit smoothie bowl with granola and stuff, and it's really good. So I wanted to have that in New York for my last morning. So we went and had that for breakfast, and we were gonna go to Grand Central Terminal. We got lost, and then we just had to leave without seeing that, because we had Top of the Rock booked to go on the sightseeing deck for like 10 a.m. or something. It was freezing the last day, absolutely freezing. And we waited in line outside again, and eventually we like took the elevator up to Top of the Rock, and it was really good views, but it was confusing because when you first get out there, you're like, okay, this is it, this is the deck, and then there's another deck on the other side, and then you can go up some stairs, and then you can go up more stairs. Like, there's multiple decks, and like I didn't like understand that, so I kept thinking like, okay, I've got my pictures, let's leave. And I saw people like going up more, so we also went up more and took more photos. I think that Top of the Rock has a really good view, just because someone made a good point. If you are like on the Empire State, because Empire State also has a viewing deck, but someone was like, well, you can't see the Empire State Building if you're on it. And I agree with that now, because it was a good view, and it looks really cool because there's Empire State kind of like in the middle of the whole view. So yeah, definitely worth the $40 or whatever it is to go up there. After that, we didn't have much time left, so we just went back to the hotel, packed our stuff, and I drove back alone to get my parents in DC. And there was a snowstorm in DC, so there was a lot of snow on the way, which was fine at first. And then the closer I got to DC, it started getting like pretty sketchy, and it was a little bit delayed. But for the most part, it was fine. I've got all-wheel drive. We were all good, and we basically just hid in the hotel for the rest of the night once I got back to DC with my parents, because it was freezing, there was snow everywhere, the roads were absolutely not cleared off. So we had to drive the next day, so we just went to get some good sleep. And this is where everything started going downhill for me, because I started feeling sick on the way to DC, like just a tickle in my throat, and I was like coughing a little bit, and mostly just my head was like feeling kind of weird. And I kind of suspected that I might have COVID, but I thought there's a snowstorm and a lot of places are closed. I don't know. And my parents were like waiting for me to pick them up, so I just had to go with it. And I thought maybe I just had a cold. And then the next morning, I was sweating all my sleep, and then the next morning I woke up And I immediately put my mask on because I was like staying in the same room with my parents, and I put my mask on and I sat there for a long time because I was like, what do I do? I don't want to get my parents sick. I don't want to get anyone sick. So I waited, I thought it out, and I was like, maybe you guys should get a rental car. I don't want to get you sick, whatever. It was one of those situations that it's unfortunate, but like also you're at the point of the trip where it's like, what do? You just kind of have to deal with it. So yeah, I was very sure that I had COVID at that point because I had a fever, I was coughing. I freaked out when I first woke up because I was like, I can't taste anything. This is it. But I was fine. I never actually like lost my taste or anything like that. Pretty sure I had Omicron, so I never had like super bad symptoms. It just felt like a cold with a fever. And so I drove the first like 2 hours or maybe 3, and I was done for. I was falling asleep. I felt like dying. So I sat in the back and I was really going through it because my car is actually so uncomfortable in the back seat. I love my car, but I love being the driver in my car, and it was not. I could not sleep. I couldn't do anything. I'm like trying to call Aldi, which is where I work, and I was trying to tell them, I've got COVID. I'm not gonna be coming in. And I had to get all that sorted out. And so we all got like tests that we could take in the car. And my parents were somehow negative. I was positive. So we were like all wearing our masks in the car and everything. And we stopped in Nashville. Kind of sketchy hotel, not gonna lie. And actually very sketchy. There was like trash out in the hallways and the doors were all banged up. So anyway, I just went into my own room and went to sleep and hoped that I would feel better the next day. I did a little bit, but yeah, we just finished the drive. And I came all the way back home because I just didn't know. I was sure that they had probably got it at that point, but I wasn't sure. So I just wanted to go home because it's not worth infecting other people for me. So came all the way back. And then I just quarantined for like 10 days or something. And I really just thrived playing video games for a whole week straight. And I've started school since then. This is my last semester here, and from there, I plan on moving this summer, and hopefully I can make lots of videos from there as well. But I've got to get through this last very painful semester of my master's, so I'm going to be doing like my paper, my exam, and everything, and I'll be done, but it's going to be rough. So yeah, I think that's probably going to be all until my spring break. I think right now I'm planning to go to New Orleans on spring break, but we will see about that. There's a lot of crime happening down there right now, but that's never scared me, I just go wherever, and nothing bad has happened yet. So, and then this summer, I'm hoping to not be here. So yeah, I will keep you guys updated, and I will see you next time. Thank you for watching.